Well, welcome everyone back to another edition of the Matters of Black Lives. Today, we have a few more other guests that were joining us this evening. Well, this evening, today, whatever you want to call it. But we have Miss Alexa Moore, who's on our staff here at The Crossing. Miss Shaniqua Williams, who I've known for, how long is it now? Maybe, what's that? 7 years?
7 years.
Yeah. Is it really 7 years?
Probably.
Something like that. Okay, whatever.
Quick.
For 7 years, we had a great friendship. Gail Key, who's on our staff here, is one of our care pastors, and then Mr. Al Thornton over here, who serves as one of our leaders in high school, but also on the security team. So we're going to just jump in. We're going to have a conversation. I know for some of us, this may be a little bit newer, and that's okay, but let's just be real, let's be authentic, and let's just go. We're talking about race, talking about black, white, Hispanic, whatever, but we're going to have a conversation around this because I think it's just important as we navigate through these times in 2020. So I'm going to open it up to I don't know specifically who wants to answer this question, but who would want to, start with what is a moment that you've experienced where you've known, I feel like there's an act of prejudice happening right now, where I felt or I'm experiencing some form, of racism. Al, I'm going to go over to you because I remember when we spoke probably maybe a couple weeks ago. One was in the cafe over here, but one was on the phone. You had shared that you have seen some things or experienced some things in your own way, shape, or form. What would you say for you? What has been something that you've gone through that you have maybe has impacted you when it comes to the racial tension that we're seeing right now, but it maybe triggers some memories?
I have experienced blatant racism by officers directly. And I'm going to give you kind of the redacted, truncated version of this. One time leaving a football game, I was leaving, minding my own business, and a couple of black guys ran past me. I guess they were running from something. I didn't realize what they were running from, but I soon found out. And a plainclothes officer attempted to tackle me and just tried to throw me onto the ground, and I didn't know what was going on. He just kept saying, "Get on the ground, get on the ground." I'm like, I didn't do anything, And he didn't identify himself as an officer. To speed it up a little bit, I ended up fighting him. I didn't realize I was fighting the officer, but I was defending myself, and I knocked him down, and then one of his buddies came and grabbed me from behind, and then after that, a whole bunch of officers jumped on top of me. And the racial slurs, I was not expecting it. I didn't know who they were. I just thought they were a gang or something like that. And they were kicking me, stomping me, calling me all kinds of names. I'm sitting there like, whoa, what's going on here? And it just took me completely by surprise. And then it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. Took me to a room that was on the campus there, threatened my life if I didn't sign a statement. They were like, "You hit an officer." I said, "I didn't hit an officer." They were like, "If you don't sign the statement, things are going to get a lot worse than what happened to you out there." And they basically threatened to take my life. They were like, "If you don't sign the statement, we're going to kill you." And I was like, what? Anyway, thank God, eventually they ended up taking me to jail. The charges were dropped because someone videotaped it, and they noticed that they discovered that I didn't do anything wrong at all, and they had the wrong person, obviously. And I didn't receive apology. I just let all the charges go because I've never been through such a horrific experience in my life, And I'm a hardworking professional, a teacher. I've been a teacher for over 20 years, and it was just a horrible experience. Yeah.
Would you say was that one of your first encounters, your only encounter? Because I think at least now in 2020, when we're looking at this, as far as all these different deaths of black men, unarmed black men, women being killed for whatever, just people of color as a whole, some people would say this is just an aberration. This doesn't happen that often in some parts of the country. It's only in the South or in so many areas. But you were aware when this happened. And how would you say that's this is an international and maybe even a national problem, not just something that happens in these small pockets, at least that we hear about?
Oh, it's most definitely prevalent. Let me preface it by saying that I've run into a lot of good officers, who've actually let me go on traffic stops and different things like that. Absolutely no problem. but I've also witnessed and experienced other times where, you know, they'll pull you over, speak to you like you're a child or a dog, and just say just some of the most racist things ever. And you wish somebody was videotaping it, but it's not happening. And this is just not my personal account. I have several friends who have experienced the same thing. And I think with social media and videotaping, it's more, you know, obvious. It's making it more known and relevant that a lot of these instances do occur. I know a lot of people are like, that's impossible. I even had a friend ask me once, he was like, if black people die at the hands of cops at such a low rate, why are you so concerned? What do you have to be concerned about? And I was like, well, I'm concerned that something small will escalate to something, you know, out of control. It's not I'm not fearful for my life. I'm fearful that if they assume or if they already have an agenda, you know, prior, you know, if they already hate me, basically, then I may face some difficult circumstances because I've already experienced those. Yeah.
Gail, you're from Canada, you said. Countries, I don't know if it's different than how much different. I've only been in Toronto and I gambled. And that was all I did. So tell me about Canada, your upbringing, but what have you seen? What are some things that you have noticed maybe in your own life of why we are where we are today?
Well, it's interesting. So I grew up in Canada, met my husband in college in the States, and have been here since. And so what I've recognized in this season, and even in discussions with my family, is that my experience may have been a little bit different. But looking back, there was influence within my family that was maybe unspoken. And I think what I have just realized that I don't know that I have witnessed what I recognized, and that could be just on me, as blatant prejudice in my, like, in comings and goings. But what I've gained awareness in this season is my black brothers and sisters' experience, and how, because I maybe didn't think of them as my black friend, how I may not have taken into consideration how that was a part of their story, and how I may not have acknowledged some of the pain or experiences that they had encountered. And so that's led to some really hard and really great conversations. And so I feel like I've maybe gained a greater sensitivity for that. I think, and this is just my experience, I grew up in Western Canada, and so I would say that any racism that I experienced was probably not black-white, but it may have been with other races, is what I would say, in my experience.
So earlier you said it's been something that's been swept under the rug in some way, shape, or form, maybe even in your own family or throughout generations, or I forget how you worded that, but would you say that is maybe one of the reasons why this continues to be a cycle, this continues to be some sort of issue that's out there, because conversations are not being had and people are not addressing it or people are not talking about it? Or if that's not the case, why do you think it is swept under the rug? Or why do you think what do you think would be a root problem or a reason why this continues to be a thing?
That's a hard question.
Yeah.
A root problem, I think that goes way back, and I'm going to give the little Jesus answer is sin, obviously, is the root problem.
Yeah.
And our desire to maybe, I think there's some self-preservation that has fed into that at times, you know, and so whatever that is, whether it's racism or sexism or classism, you know, I think there's some things that feed into that. And so I think in communities where you grow up, I think that some of that comes from generations going back and what their experience was. And so I think sometimes that's an unspoken story that gets told. Yeah. And you know, I picked up on things, and as I got a little bit older and sassier, maybe with my parents, I would ask about things, and I don't know that they were always aware of some of those feelings. And so I think there's just, you know, I think having the conversations with your kids, and even with your parents, with your extended family, and I would agree that there was probably an unspoken, maybe it was spoken and I just didn't always, but similar to what you said in older generations about having mixed racial relationships, I think that was probably the one thing, the message I got at some point. Yeah.
Well, we asked this earlier, but where do you think those messages come from? Like, what is out there? Because I mean, let's be honest, stereotypes are stereotypes. We all see them. I mean, we worked at Central together. I've had no issues saying ridiculous things to you, jokes I shouldn't have said at all. And I know that, but now looking back, I realize how that gave other people the permission to feel like they could also joke in those kinds of ways as well. But my stereotypes come from somewhere. But I would ask you guys, like, where do you think, how you perceive this is white, this is black, this is Hispanic, where does that come from? Where do you seeing that the messaging is in your face to how we perceive people?
I would say for me and just the way I perceived myself and the black community is stemmed from, for one, generational things and also media. We've always been portrayed a certain way on TV. So when I look at TV, I see a girl who would look like me, but she is portrayed as a single mom who's in the ghetto and living a certain way. So when I see that and when I saw that as a young girl, I automatically took on that persona of going to be I didn't grow up thinking I was going to be successful or being in a certain career or anything. I literally had the dream of being a single mom raising kids. You know, so that was what I saw, and that's what I took on. And the same with my brothers. They took on being thugs because that's what we saw on TV. It was no portrayal of having successful families and being successful as an individual, as an African American, right? That's all we saw for me. I can't speak for anyone else, but growing up and being from the hood, that's what I took on. I didn't think there would be anything else that could come to my life other than being stuck in where we were from. And I do believe that's a generational thing and also a media portrayal of black communities, because my mother grew up thinking that's all we was going to have, and her mother, you know, so it's like things that was passed down, and I'm thankful that God gave me the eyes to see something different for my life and that I could speak that into the generation that will come after me, because I do believe that we have to be better of speaking just life into our own communities, so then we can take away and strip back that persona of what the media and what other people have placed on African